They said, you're absolutely right. You're disenfranchising an entire set of people. So this drawing was brought to the court by Republicans, and that entire area is Latinos, basically, because they felt Latinos need to have a say in their own representation,
Gotcha.
and that's why it was drawn that way. And the Supreme, so now there's a new rule in play. So the new rule is that there has to be a majority minority, which means I know I have to. I see that blank. You
Wow.
got a blank stare on your face. And
Wow. Really?
yeah.
Okay.
So a majority minority. What that means is that there has to be some districts that have a majority of a minority of some sort.
Yes.
Okay, because of that whole representation, white people make up 70 some percent of the population. It'd be easy to draw districts where nobody gets represented but whites,
Yes.
essentially. So, welcome to another installment of Civil Disagreement. My name's Kevin Beers, and to my right here is Michael Green, my co-host. Today, let's see, we're talking about the election results. A lot going on right now, even though the election, all the ballots have been cast, but there's still a lot of talk going on. So we're going to talk about where we are, what we see, things like that. Let's see. I actually had this question has been on my mind since the election, Mike.
Here we go.
If we talked a lot about Joe Jorgensen.
Yes.
Okay. If getting Trump out of office were not so important to you, would you have voted for Joe Jorgensen, or would you still have voted for Biden?
I probably would have still voted for Biden. And the only reason I'm saying that is because even though Joe on paper looks like a better candidate than Mr. Biden and Trump, um, the reason that I'm voting was again the number one reason a lot of people are going to say they voted is because they wanted Trump out of office. But at the end of the day, what's the reason Joe Biden got my vote is he already showed that he has a history of working with Democrats already. So and when I say Democrats, I mean Democrats from outside of his culture. I mean, let's be honest. We're not just talking about Democrat Republican anymore. Okay, this election just wasn't about Democrat versus Republican. A lot of people probably think that, but it just wasn't. You know, as much as black people were activated to vote, and who, no matter who you voted for, you still voted. But as much as Black America was activated to vote, people of color, Latino, whatever, a lot of people were activated to vote that normally did not vote or could not vote in these last elections. And so what you saw was literally the representation of what is America now. And that is a whole culture thing. So today's culture of America just did not, a good percentage of those people did not identify with what the current leader, the current president of the United States, Donald Trump, is promoting. And that's what you saw. So here it is. You got this guy named Joe Biden who made mistakes politically, who said some things and identified himself with a certain side of culture in America, even though he has been a Democrat. And now he has the history, the receipts to show he can now work with the new culture of America. He's already got receipts. He's shown he can do it already when he served under Obama. It's just that simple. Okay. That's why he got my vote, because he already has a physical history of showing that he can change, or he can at least entertain change. Joe Jorgensen, there's nothing wrong with her. If this had been the last election, okay, and she was running as a Democrat, she probably would have won.
Mm-hmm.
she probably would have won.
I would have voted for her.
You see what I'm saying? I would have voted for her too. I mean, in the absence of Joe Biden,
I did vote for her.
You
and
see,
she, you
yeah, you see what I'm saying? You got Joe Jurgensen, you got Hillary Clinton, and you got Donald Trump. And if Joe Jurgensen would have ran as a Democrat against Hillary Clinton, she probably would have got all the votes. She probably would have won. I mean, that's just my opinion, but it just is what it is.
Okay. Well, and here I thought I asked the yes or no question. Okay. So the election's been actually the news media has already called the race that Biden won.
Mm-hmm.
He got there's still vote counting going on still. Trump has already filed suits in a bunch of different states alleging voter fraud.
Yes.
Things like that.
Yes.
So a lot going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is what has been kind of in my craw for the past week or so. Basically, just because it's people I know, and this is I think that's what gripes me more than anything is that people I know who, for instance, in my entire time on Facebook,
Yes.
I've only ever blocked. Well, it was 2 people up until last week.
Yes.
Because I want to hear other people's opinions, and it's okay if your opinion doesn't agree with mine. I'm good with that.
Yes.
But my problem was someone who has been slamming Trump.
Yes.
Ever since he got elected.
Yes.
Every single day.
Yes.
There's some kind of nasty post from this person. And then it's called Biden's the winner. They call the race. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, we need to pray for guidance for Joe Biden in the transition, that kind of stuff. I'm like, where were the prayers for Trump?
They were out there.
Not this person.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm pulling out one particular person, and that person.
Oh, okay. Got you. It's about this person.
Yeah, and that particular person got blocked by me because it was just this entire hypocrisy. I was willing to put up with all the negative stuff.
And let me just make the point clear where you're coming from. This person that you blocked, since Trump was running and since he's won, they have been literally on 100 against them, just slamming Trump, period.
Yes.
From time zero.
Every single day.
Okay,
yes,
got you.
Absolutely. And then as soon as Biden wins, and I knew she was going to expose the gender, but I knew she would celebrate that. And, it just, well, I would too if my candidate wins.
Okay.
However, it was just this whole hypocrisy thing. And then I didn't block her right away because it's like, okay, I'll give her that one. Again, I'm an extremely tolerant person for some things. Okay, so this whole thing about, we got to pray for Joe Biden, that, God guides him and the steps and stuff like that. It's like, we should have been doing that for Trump too. But what really took the cake for me then was that she came back and said, well, now that Biden won, we should all work together for a better America.
Okay.
So you've been demonizing not just Trump, and the thing is, she's not slamming Trump for 4 years. Well, she is slamming Trump for 4 years. She's also slamming every Trump supporter there is.
Yes.
And calling them stupid.
Yes.
And it's like this constant. I honestly, I don't know how I put up with it for 4 years, but I did.
Yes.
And all of a sudden it's like, oh, all is forgiven now. Now we can work together and we can hug and
yes.
And we're gonna have a better America because we're all gonna work together.
Yes.
It's like, I forgive you for 4 years of hell. Absolutely. Like that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that kind of a mindset.
Okay. So my only answer to that to that experience for you is from a Christian standpoint is welcome to the club. Cause I saw your post and you saw what I wrote.
Yes.
I've been going through that my whole adult life.
Yes.
And
I'm not saying that you're wrong about what you're saying or anything like that.
Yes.
But it isn't just one person. I see this kind of across the
The
board.
board, yes.
Where there was not a day that went by that I mean, just a lot of people constantly every day slamming not just Trump but Trump supporters. And the
Yes.
thing is, I'm not even a Trump supporter, and I get so wrapped up in it because it's like you're demonizing the other half of my friends because I'm friends with people on both sides. I don't, and the thing is, I don't understand why we have sides to start with.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I support my Trump friends. I'm not a Biden supporter, but I support my Biden friends. I don't. I didn't like Biden. I didn't like Harris. But I didn't vote for Trump either.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's this. It's just this whole hypocrisy thing. Now, I did go back and on the same post where I slammed, or I said I was blocking her. I also said, well, back when Obama was president, you Republicans were doing the exact same thing to him. And then when Trump won, then you said, "Oh, let's all work together and make a better America."
Again,
Like,
again,
you can't do
and
it.
again.
Now, I didn't block everybody then.
No, you didn't.
Actually, if I blocked everybody for doing that,
You would have no Facebook friends.
it would be you and me.
Yes, that's what it would be. I can honestly say I publicly don't do that. I can't say I've never done it. I'm just saying the man that I am now, I just don't believe in it. I think we all have some mess with us. I think it's just up to each individual person to analyze his own self to understand what's more important to him for his growth. To this point right here, a lot that me and I guess Kevin agree on because we don't really disagree because of our faith and just where we see ourselves in our walk, where we're at now as men. That whole demonization and trying to tear people down and make people feel bad for stuff it's just not helpful. It's not. And I too am seeing the whole hypocrisy of something. If I think somebody has bad character and I point that out, it is what it is. But the whole you know, it's, to demonize somebody or to make somebody feel like they are just less than because they disagree with you or they support a person that you definitely don't like the character of or don't agree with. I get that. I mean, I don't get that. My thing is that how do you have the discussion with people if your whole entire purpose of life is to demonize or tear down or assault everybody that just disagrees with you? You know, I don't understand how anything can get solved or how you have a solution come to the forefront to solve any major issues. And so, like you said, it ends up with this whole pick a side thing. And then and what came out of that was cancel culture and everything else that you keep seeing on social media. Mm-hmm. So,
and that's another show that we did on cancel culture.
Yeah,
just putting it out there in case you want to go see it. Okay, so that's the presidential election.
Yes.
Now, what seems to have been missed, I know you didn't miss it, but a lot of people have missed, is the fact that the Democrats made zero gains on the state level.
Well,
which is extremely important.
They kind of did. The Senate lost a seat, and they still not They still not finished tabulating the votes yet.
Okay, so
yes.
Okay, so one seat, but I'm talking about. I'm not talking about in the federal government. I'm talking about state government right now.
Oh, in the local governments.
Yeah.
What's Democrat is still Democrat, and what's Republican is still Republican.
No, actually, there was a lot of flipping toward Republican. A lot of the Senate and House seats, state level.
Yes.
Flipped toward Republican. The Democrats made no gains at all. It was all Republican gains.
And I understand what you're saying, but the places where most of the Democrats reside stayed Democrat. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
well, like Virginia, disappointingly, is still Democrat.
Yes, because all those rural areas in Virginia, even if they were blue last election, they might be red now. Sorry, all the population has a bunch of liberals and Democrats there, right. So it's going to be blue.
And that's all in northern. It's in northern Virginia, surrounding Washington D.C.
Yes. And down in the Hampton Roads area. Sorry to say that, but it just is.
Well, it is. Yeah. Well, Richmond City also.
Yes.
Is also very Democratic.
Yes.
But the reason I bring that up, and we had talked about whether or not we were going to talk about that today, was that the census was this year.
Yes.
And because there's been a lot of shifting in the states toward Republican,
Yes.
is gerrymandering. So gerrymandering, in case you don't know, is the drawing of the district lines, essentially. So, and that affects the federal government. But the reason I wanted to talk about the state level was because it's the states who decide how to draw the lines.
Yes.
Now, in Virginia, one of the things that was on the ballot this year, which I was really glad to see,
Yes.
was currently the governor and one other position. They decide how to draw the lines. Now, in our state, that they're Democrats. Both positions are held by Democrats. What was on the ballot was that the Virginia constitutional amendment to change that to an 8-person
bipartisan committee.
Bipartisan. I think it's 4 people within the government, half Democrat, half Republican. And 4 people at large who have no connection to the government. Exactly. So I was really glad to see that. Apparently, I believe Georgia did the same thing.
Yes.
I think they were the other state that did the same thing. So I was really glad to see that because that can help eliminate some gerrymandering. And gerrymandering, yes. So drawing state lines. So what has happened in the past, and I learned that gerrymandering is actually illegal, but if you do it right, you can get away with it.
Which has been happening for
right. So
decades. Let's put it that way.
Okay. So I created a couple of illustrations just to show how gerrymandering works, just like because I felt that we just kind of need an explanation. So the very first one, I don't know if this represents any particular state or not, but what I have is there are 15 Democrat positions and 10 Republican. So the state is broke up, basically 3-2. Okay, so that's going to be the split: 3 Democrat, 2 Republican. In the first illustration, if we draw the lines this way, so those red lines we split up into 5 districts. So we split them up into 5 districts: 3 Democrat, 2 Republican. It represents the state completely because that's the makeup of the state. Now, let's say the Democrats get to draw the lines. So they're going to draw it this way. By doing it this way, all 5 districts become Democrat majority, and they control the election for the next 10 years.
Yes.
Because, like I said, the census was this year. Next year, they draw the new lines. Who's in charge gets, most states, it's whoever's controlling the state government.
Yes.
Now, at this point in time, I don't know the exact numbers, but I believe it's 39 states are strictly Republican, and the remainder 11 are Democrat. So Republicans, because there was so much shifting in this particular election toward Republican, gives a Republican advantage over the next 10 years.
Yes.
So it's now, and I heard the Republicans say, yeah, we lost this battle, but we won the war.
Yes.
Because they get to draw the lines.
They get to draw the lines.
Now, let's look at
which is part of the voter suppression episode that we talked about, which y'all can go back and look at that one. But
okay,
yes.
Okay. So let's say Republicans get to draw the lines. So that's the last illustration up here. When they get to draw the lines, now it's 3-2. So there's going to be some Democratic lines, obvious, or areas. But if the Republicans draw the lines correctly into their favor, they can actually draw 3 districts into their favor. 2 still remain Democrat because they don't get a choice on that because there's just too many Democrats. But they can still swing it to their favor under these kind of conditions.
Yes.
So,
that example is what we are used to. That example, that most recent example.
Believe it or not.
No, that is what we've been used to for decades until something changed.
Okay. So you're saying Republican or Democrat, or are you just saying gerrymandering in general?
That type of gerrymandering from the last example is what black people were used to.
Okay. Yes. So now I want to throw a map up there, and I told Mike I didn't want him to see this until I put it up here because I want his reaction on camera.
Yes.
This particular illustration is Chicago's 104th district, I believe,
Okay.
or the 14th. Okay, I'll look it up. I'll make sure I get it put up there in the illustration. That was drawn by Republicans.
What was drawn
That,
by Republicans?
that see that big area there?
Okay. Yes.
That was drawn by Republicans. Now, that's drawn around the city of Chicago, essentially.
Yes.
Does that look like something a Republican would draw?
I have no idea. I got to see what's around it.
Okay. Well, basically, it doesn't show anything.
Yes, but it
Okay.
does show all that blue area.
Yeah, okay.
I get that.
So one of the rules of drawing a district is that it has to be contiguous, meaning there are no gaps.
Yes.
No other district can interfere with. So they draw, and this is called the earmuffs.
Yes.
Or the earmuff, and this was actually a famous Supreme Court case. Now, when I was expecting Mike to have some kind of wild reaction when I said Republicans drew those lines, like I was expecting this. I would expect that from Republicans because it looks like one of the worst cases of gerrymandering ever.
Yes.
But what it really is, well, first of all, look at the color. It's blue.
Blue. Yes.
So Republicans drew a Democratic
Section. Yes, a
okay.
district.
But
if you look at what's around it, there's a reason why that was probably drawn like that.
okay, there is a reason.
There you go.
And I was hoping for a better reaction. Mike disappointed me once again.
I have learned, oh wise man, to make sure I have all the evidence.
Where'd you learn that, by the way? He learned it from an old wise man that shall remain nameless that's sitting next to him. But what happened was the Democrats drew a different set of lines. And the Republicans actually said, by doing that, you're disenfranchising all the Latino population. Because the population of Chicago, or Illinois in general, had grown by 20% since the previous census.
Yes.
And the way the Democrats drew the lines, the Latinos had no way to get any representation whatsoever. So the Republicans took the Democrats to court over it, and I guess it was the Supreme Court. I don't know if it was the federal Supreme Court or the state Supreme Court. They said, you're absolutely right. You're disenfranchising an entire set of people. So this drawing was brought to the court by Republicans, and that entire area is Latinos, basically, because they felt Latinos need to have a say in their own representation.
Gotcha.
And that's why it was drawn that way. And so now there's a new rule in play. So the new rule is that there has to be a majority minority, which means I know I have to. I see that.
Wow.
You got a blank stare on your face.
Wow. Really? Okay.
Yeah. So a majority minority. What that means is that there has to be some districts that have a majority of a minority of some sort.
Yes.
Okay, because of that whole representation, white people make up 70-some% of the population. It'd be easy to draw districts where nobody gets represented but whites.
Yes.
Essentially. So this new rule got into play that you have to have some districts which are majority minority.
Yes.
And this particular district was deemed constitutional, as weird as it may look, because it allows a group of people who don't necessarily live together in the exact same location to get equal representation.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that was a rule, and actually I guess that was the federal Supreme Court because the rule was federal.
Yes.
So I think it was a really good move. What surprised me, as soon as I looked at it and I saw it was blue, I thought, oh, Democrats drew that. I mean, that's the first thing I thought. And then I started reading into exactly what happened, and it was Republicans, and that's a very Democratic area.
Yeah.
But they still drew it because they were fighting for the Latinos of the area.
Pretty dope.
Yeah, so that was awesome. Okay, so that's gerrymandering. Actually, tell us what you think about gerrymandering. No one seems to like it unless their side gets to draw the line.
Yeah, that's
apparently.
pretty much what it is. I'm
Yeah.
watching that amendment that Virginia got to vote on that actually passed.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of people that normally vote conservative or Republican pretty much disagreeing with it online.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were disagreeing with it. They was like, oh, so we're going to dump one committee that used to draw lines in their favor for another committee that's going to do the same thing. I don't get it. Why would you do that? And the issue is that this is what I'm noticing about people that disagree with a lot of stuff that has to do with these tag words. I'm gonna say these tag words: uh, criminal justice, voter suppression, equal opportunity, racism, uh, stuff like rape culture. Like we 2020 has been like this thing, gun laws or gun control laws or something. Like when you start talking about these social issues that have come up in 2020 big time, or that we've been talking about for years now, there is just some people that just want to believe that all that is garbage. It is just it's just, I'm sorry, that's the wrong use of the word. From what I'm getting, that's the wrong word to describe that. Most of the people that I'm looking at that disagree with those things or believe that they don't exist, or are not a a frontline issue, or people that are dismissive of that because they believe it's media talking points. It's a distraction. They, or some people, just downright just don't believe that any of it exists. And I get, and when you come from that point of view, that's why I see all this disagreement with things like that amendment and things of that nature. So, but my question to those people is that if it didn't exist and it's not a frontline issue, why are we still talking about it? And I just don't agree with this whole, because the media keeps bringing it up. Are you really going to tell me that Fox News, CNN, and all this media stuff is really brainwashing people? Are you really trying to say that the common American is that weak? You understand what I'm saying? So the common American is,
okay. I want to interject here.
Yeah.
I see an awful lot of people who present facts that they saw on their favorite news program.
Yes.
Which is leaning hard one way or the other.
Yes.
And when you actually dig into it, those facts were just twisted.
Okay.
We agree that news media is very biased.
Of course, but where did they get the bias from? What came first, the chicken or the egg? That's my question. That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
You really.
I think it came down to there was a.
Did I do research because I understand my platform changed and it has to survive a certain way? Okay, so Mr. Green, if your news media network has to survive off of commentary and followers, what subject matter should we talk about? I don't know. Let's go out here and find out.
The problem is, it isn't even what you pick to choose to cover and what not to cover. Because a lot of news media is going toward, we're just making crap up. And we're going to just throw it out there and see where. And they will even go as far as to say, well, if this is actually true, but we just presented it as fact.
I understand that, but to do that, you must get that energy from somewhere. This is the way business works, commerce works.
Yes.
If I go out there and I say I'm going to make up stories about aliens, if nobody follows it in America, and I don't get a good following from it. I mean, it obviously my news network or my media network is going to fail in this, and people are not. I'm not going to get sponsor money. I'm not going to get ad money because I keep talking about aliens.
Right.
Nobody wants to see that on the news network.
I agree.
Okay, so if I talk about crime a certain way, and it's like, wow, look at all this ad spend we're generating. Look at all this following we're promoting.
Exactly. When news became basically, when 24-hour news came along.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it's like, we need to make money because 24-hour news, who's going to sit and watch 24-hour news?
Exactly.
Now, people will. I mean, because people
were watching the business news all day long.
Right. So now, okay, yeah. So now we put 24-hour news out there, and that's fine because actually I used to watch a lot of news that way. But because people are watching, now we gotta sell commercials. And so the value of the commercial goes up.
Yes.
Well, we need more viewership because when our viewership goes up, the cost of commercial time goes up
too.
with it.
Yes, because we now have justification to say if you buy ads on our space, this is how many people will be seeing it.
Exactly. So now we have to start tailoring the news
to keep the viewership up.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And to me, a lot of news stations. Okay, I'm going to call out CNN. I got a real problem with CNN. Always have. Well, not always, because in the beginning they were good, but they lean so hard to the left at this point, and my left-leaning friends are the ones that use CNN all the time as their justification for what they're saying.
Yes.
But when you see somebody like Don Lemon, so Don Lemon says, we need to win the election. Where is the journalism of that kind of a statement? If you're, and you see everything he commentates, is always leaning. It's always against Republicans, always for Democrats.
Yes.
Now, if you do that, that is fine. But come out and say this is a very biased broadcast.
Yes.
Just say it. But they keep saying that there are.
But they do.
No, they don't.
They do. You know what happened, right?
They say they're neutral.
You know what happened? This is what happened. When these news networks started coming out with that with the hashtag disclaimer. Yes.
Okay,
you know what I'm talking about.
Let's get back to the election. You get me started on news media, I will not get off of it. Okay.
Yes. The election results.
Okay. So now, like we mentioned at the very beginning, Trump is filing suits right now.
Yes, he is.
For voter fraud.
Yes.
Now, I watched some interesting commentary on that, and one thing that was said was there is always some voter fraud. There always is.
Yes.
The problem is whether or not the fraud that's being committed is enough to sway the election.
It usually isn't.
And it usually isn't. Now, a bunch of races are...
Just like what they did with North Carolina last election, but that's cool.
Okay. So, but there's a bunch of races or a bunch of states which are relatively close margins.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wanted to just throw this out there because by trade I'm a software engineer. And there's certain rules that we follow as engineers. For instance, for anybody who deals in accounting, at the end of the month, every business basically has month-end processing.
Yes.
Okay. Especially if you do a large number of transactions. A lot of stuff waits till the end of the month to compile everything. When now I do a lot of consulting too. So if I go into a company and they want advice on computer stuff, if it's near month-end processing, we're not going to do anything because we cannot interfere with that process. That usually takes 3 days or so because there's so much data that's got to be compiled.
Yes.
Now, let's say we know for a fact there's a bug in the software.
Yes.
We know for a fact there's a bug in the software. And month-end processing is going to start tomorrow.
Yes.
Am I going to fix that bug today? What would your... I know you're not a software guy, but...
I mean, I would think that, you would want to fix the bug so your processing is correct and efficient.
That answer is incorrect. Now I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because if we fix the bug, we might introduce a new problem. Now, we already know what the bug does because that's how we identified it. We were able to identify that this is what it does to the transaction. So we can identify that the bug affected this particular transaction because of the outcome.
Yes.
So we're going to let it run with the bug in it. And then on, let's say we do this starting Friday. This is usually how it's done. Start it Friday, end it on Sunday.
Yes.
On Monday, we're going to run all those transactions again against the new software with the bug fix in it.
Yes.
It's going to run at a slower rate, so we're not really bogging down the computers. And then we're going to compare the outcome of the one with the bug, one without the bug, just to make sure everything ran properly.
Yes.
You will not fix the bug ahead of time, or you won't put the fix in ahead of time, because if it introduced a new problem, you can't identify it.
Yes.
So what happened was 60% of all the voting machines in America are from one particular company.
Yes.
Now, my understanding is that company installed a patch the night before the election. In my 40 years of history with computers, no one does that.
Okay.
So best case scenario, it looks shady.
Okay.
I'm not saying that they did something shady.
But who?
I'm just saying the appearance
Okay.
is that it was shady.
Okay.
And what happens is next day, it's either Wisconsin or Michigan. I'm not sure which one. One of the counties had a computer glitch on one of those machines, and when they recounted the votes, it flipped from Biden to Trump. Now that's only one county. It wasn't by a lot of votes, but it happened.
Yes.
And that was one of the machines that got the fix in it. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't look good. Now I'm not saying it's enough to because whichever state it was, there was probably enough margin where it's not going to flip it.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it was done,
yes,
is just a bad sign. It's not what you do. You just run the election with the bug, knowing what the bug does.
Mm-hmm.
Then all those votes are collected. The data doesn't go away. Then you rerun, because the way we do it in software is when you're doing transactions, whether it be sales or votes or whatever, all the raw stuff goes into a file.
Mm-hmm.
So we have track of it. And then it gets processed. And that takes basically a copy of all the raw data and processes it, either tabulating or whatever you're going to do with it.
Okay.
Now, if you fix the bug, you take a copy of the raw transactions again and just rerun it.
Oh, got you.
So, again, like I'm saying, in my 40 years, no one fixes a bug the night before something big is going to happen.
Now, that is a very, very, very valid argument only from one side of culture in this country. For all the people that had no representation and arguing from a voter suppression standpoint, I don't even know what to say to something like that, because
okay.
You see where I'm coming from?
I see what you're saying.
Yes.
My point would be like one of the things that's being said now is, well, every vote counts, and I absolutely agree.
Yes.
But the thing is, if whether or not it was done on purpose or not,
yes,
isn't even the point. It's like, I want every vote to count.
Yes.
And if Biden wins, Biden wins. It's just
yes,
the way it is. If Trump wins, Trump wins. But with what, and now like I said, I'm not saying they did it purposely, but the fact that they violated every rule of software engineering.
Yeah, but they violated the rules of software engineering and not the rules of voting. Like, you see where I'm coming from?
I'm saying we do have all the data of what those votes were.
Yes.
And it's just a matter
it's just like the last election when they conveniently restructured the registered who can vote list.
Yeah, okay.
And kicked all these basically African American voters off the eligible you can vote list.
Yes.
Because what they did was they put out a mandate that you have to re-register to vote now. And when you re-register to vote, I'm sorry, if you haven't registered past a certain date, you can't just show up to the polls with an ID and vote. Yes. And
I will totally agree with you on that.
What you had to be registered by a certain date, a certain way, and if you didn't do it by a certain date, you were kicked off the actual registered voters roster. So and let's just say you've been living in the same house for the last 30 years and voting in the same polling place for the last 25 years. Okay? When you got kicked off that roster and you showed up to vote in that last election where Trump won, they would go, "No, ma'am, you're not registered to vote here. Oh, here's my driver's license," which usually is how it went. You show them a actual government ID with an address on it, or a government ID with another ID or proof of address, like a bill with your name on it or something, and they would look at the address and look at your government ID. Okay, like a military ID or like if you worked for the city or something, they would take that government ID, that bill, they would look at it, match it up, and then they would put you in the system, okay? And then they would allow you to vote. They did not do that. And there were a bunch of
Right. That was what, Georgia?
it was either Georgia or North Carolina. I want to say it's North Carolina, but
okay.
I could be wrong about the state. But that's what happened when the Trump election happened, and it was legal. So at the end of the day, what Kevin is talking about, does it look shady? Yes. But doesn't it also look shady that the person that was running for office was also a person that was in charge of the voters registration board and did that?
I'm not going to use the words that are in my mind right now.
Yes.
But that was crap.
Yeah.
That there is no way that should have ever happened.
Yes. And so at the end of the day, nothing he did was illegal.
Right.
But we understand.
Right. But anyway, the thing is, if it occurs in one place one way and it occurs in, I don't connect them the way you're connecting them only because I think we should never set a bar saying, well, it happened there, so it's okay that it happened here. I don't ever want to say it's ever okay.
Yes.
No matter how we look at it.
Well, that's the system that you give the oppressed to use. It's sort of like this.
Yes.
Like when people, like I'm seeing comments, and again, we're talking about the election results and hypocrisy. So to people that are disappointed that Trump lost, I am now seeing some of them get on Facebook and go, well, we think, what case in point, something was directed at me. Oh, if voter suppression happened, how did Biden win? If black people can't vote, look at Georgia, right? So the answer that I have for that is basically what we had to do was, we're saying the system is not equal. Yes, it is. This is what America has to use. It's a democratic process, blah, 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 blah. You have to use it. So you want us to use the system that we're telling you is being used to oppress us or to suppress our vote. It's not fair. It's not equal. So we go back and we sit around. We got 4 years to figure out how can we engineer something to take control of the system that was created to not allow us to have representation. So we came up with a way and we put it into effect. And now that we learned how to use said tool to get a result, now there's a problem. That's what I find funny. You see what I'm saying? So you still can't prove that what I said was wrong. You're just trying to act like that I'm being a hypocrite because I had to use the system that we said was flawed to win. And now you want to say, oh man, this system is oppressive. This system is flawed. Oh, we've been saying it for the last 50 years.
Well, luckily, Virginia found a way to make things a little bit better. Okay, so but wait, there's more.
More, yes.
Okay, so in Wisconsin, I saw somebody put out there that there were more people voted than what there were registered voters.
More people.
And you know what? It was actually true, but there's a but. There's always a but.
Yeah.
In Wisconsin, you can register at the polling
poll.
place.
Yes, that's what we've been trying to say that.
So the day before the election, there were a certain number registered. On the day of the election, more people voted than were registered the day before, but you can register on the day of.
Yes, so most states you can do that. You don't have to be registered by a certain date and you can't vote.
Well, now Virginia's not one of those states, though.
It's not anymore. No, I don't know if that is true or not.
Because I kept getting stuff that kept saying, make sure you're registered.
Yes, but I don't know if that's true or not in the state of Virginia. I really don't.
Okay, I don't really know for sure either.
Yes, I don't know if that's true anymore.
I also learned that in California, because I watched the Rubin Report. I love Dave Rubin. So Dave Rubin went to vote. He said he did not have to show an ID. He just had to tell them his name and where he lived. If
it's a computerized system, then that's all they have to do is look that up.
Yeah,
but I don't know. The whole not showing an ID, that I don't get.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's been a big thing about requiring an ID to vote.
Now the problem is that again, you can only do that with a computerized system, and this is what I mean. I can go in and say, I'm David Rubin. They don't know if you're black, white, Puerto Rican, or whatever. But once that name is ticked off, nobody else can come anywhere in that state and say, I'm David Rubin, because your name's ticked off.
Right.
You can only do that in a fully computerized, software-driven voters registration.
It's not that simple, because in Pennsylvania, I believe it is.
Yes.
If you voted by mail.
Yes.
You can vote. Well, actually, there's a bunch of states that do this, but you can go in
and change your vote,
and you can change your vote on the day of.
Yes.
So that's a possibility too.
Yes.
So there was a woman that claimed that.
But in Pennsylvania, when you do that, do you have to show ID?
Probably. Well, yeah, but that's just it. What surprised me was that that any state allowed you to vote without an ID. Honestly,
no, Virginia, you have to show ID. Yeah. That's law.
Yeah, as soon as I walked in, it's like, no, we need.
Yeah, you need to see. Yeah, ID, please.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing was, I walked in after hearing Dave Rubin say I didn't need an ID, and I walk in and I'm like, and I was asked for an ID. I'm like, no, here I thought we were doing without the IDs now, but that was California. That was just, and which I don't get there, because California has like the highest level of illegal immigrants, so anybody can walk in, say, as long as you know somebody's name and address. Now, if you're pulling up, let's say, DMV records and their face is there, that's basically identifiable, I guess. But that was not the case. But there's a woman that claimed that her mail-in vote never arrived to her house, and then she went to vote at the polling place because it never arrived, and they said, well, you've already voted. Now, that's, again, it could be a one-off, that sort of thing, because it was just one person, so again, anecdotal at best.
Yes.
But those are the kinds of things that are being alleged, and the thing is, because, like I heard earlier today, there's always some voter fraud that occurs. It's usually like one person doing something somewhere, kind of thing. Okay, another thing to talk about is there's a video that started circulating now.
Yes.
Of a guy who looked at a ballot, didn't like the way it was marked, and he remarked it.
He looks around the gymnasium or wherever they're at, and he doesn't see anybody, and so he pulls out something and starts marking on the ballot. And yes, that's illegal. You're not supposed to do that. But this video started popping up, and everybody on the right, it was just sharing this video talking about, yeah, this is what they're doing with these mail-in ballots. And I'm like, that video was old as I don't know what. Like, come on, man. Like, stop. Like,
apparently from a previous election.
Yeah.
Now my neighbor was telling me, and he works in law enforcement, but he said that there's a video of someone reading the ballot, someone marking it down, and then she takes the ballot in the trash, takes the ballot he just remarked and puts it back in the stack. Says there's video of it. I didn't see it. That reminds me of something else that I definitely want to talk about. Then there's another video of some guy looking at the ballot, sees it's for Trump, crumbles it up, throws it in the trash. Now, again, whether it's a new video, old video, that I don't know. I'm just reporting some. These are the kinds of things that make whoever the loser is, whoever voted for the loser or wanted the person that lost to actually win.
Yes.
They're the ones that are going to perpetuate all that when they see it.
Yes.
And that so it calls things into question.
Now, I want to definitely say to all the people in that when I guess from my side of the fence, when we talk about voter registration, we're not talking about those examples. We're really not. We're talking about actual constructs put in place, like what happened with that gentleman that was running for office, and yet he was still on the voting board commission or whatever for the state, and did that whole purge of the list because he knew it was going to allow him. Because you got to think specifically the African American senior citizens that are in living assistance and stuff like that and need ways to get around to re-register to vote. And a lot of them don't have email. A lot of them don't check all their mail. You see what I'm saying? So you have all these people that got kicked off the list that had to re-register and really didn't know they had to re-register.
Wasn't that Stacey Abrams? Wasn't that her
I think
race?
that, yeah, I think that was Georgia.
That was her.
Yeah, I think that was,
that
yeah.
was her race.
Yes. So what ends up happening is you have all these unregistered voters that don't know they're unregistered. You see what I'm saying? And so that's why I think that, and that's why Stacey Abrams went in down in Georgia and flipped that whole entire, like they went in on voter registration. And so at the end of the day, you have these systems and these constructs set up in place that we have been complaining about. And everybody's like, no, 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 that stuff doesn't exist. So then we take control of said construct and do exactly what people have been doing to us. We try to use the system legally to make it so it's fair, not advantageous to us, just so it's fair. So we have equal running. See, before it wasn't, we didn't have equal running. We just want to have equal running. We want our vote to count. That's it. Participation. So now that we had equal participation, look what happened. And now all of a sudden, oh, it's voters fraud. Huh? How is it voters fraud if all the votes are being counted? Before, we were saying voter suppression because all the votes are not counting. We're saying constructs are in place to not allow us to vote. That's what we're saying. And now you're saying it's it's voting fraud. Like you're saying that you was able to vote and your vote is not even being counted. We're saying it's voter suppression because we weren't even able to vote, period. There's no vote to count. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? There's a big difference between that.
Okay, so here's another one. Because I saw this circulate. Now, this was circulating on the Democratic side.
Yes.
Was Trump tried to file suit to stop the counting of the votes?
Yes.
Okay. So I saw everybody jump on this one, and I don't know if a news media source was perpetuating the whole idea that because he's ahead in that state, that's why he wants it to stop.
Yes.
Okay, I dug into that story because, I mean, first of all, he doesn't have the power, but second, it just didn't make sense overall.
Yes.
What I found out was the reason he wanted the voting to stop, and actually Pennsylvania is actually a really good example of this.
Yes.
There's if Pennsylvania is Democratic, and so what the Republicans get is they get to observe the counting of the votes. They may not be able to actually sit and count them, but they can observe it to make sure nothing happens. They were being denied the right to do that, so it went to court.
Yes.
The court said you got to let Republicans watch.
Yes.
And they still refused to do it. Now, so they're defining.
No, that's not quite true.
Well,
they let them in, but they refused to let them get as close.
Well, they were supposed to be allowed up to 6 feet away, and they moved.
No, it wasn't 6 feet. First, it was 12 to 10 because of the social distancing.
Right, but it was 6 at some point, and then they moved it anyway. But then there's stories coming out that some other court reversed that. So I guess we don't really know what's going on there.
Yes. But
the whole thing about him stopping the vote because he's ahead was not the case. It was stopping the vote because the Republican contingency that was supposed to observe
was denied access.
So I wanted to clear that one up because that was one, like, yeah, again, it didn't make sense, but we're pushing, these narratives keep getting pushed.
But that still doesn't count as voter fraud or voter suppression.
No, I'm not saying that.
Yes.
But again, it's one of those things where it looks really shady.
Shady.
If anything, these elections should be completely transparent with the exception of knowing who cast the vote.
Yes. Well, my thing is that I just want to say that I just want to ask a question, and I wish somebody could answer this, regardless of Democrat or Republican. Okay? Again, I'm not trying to convert or trying to get everybody to agree with me or anything. We've been talking about some of the hypocrisy that we see out here. Okay? I am always going to sound like a victim to certain people coming from the mindset of the oppressed, because that's what black people are in this country. Okay? I'm not saying that we're not free, and I'm not saying that we don't have certain opportunities to be great in this country, and I'm definitely not saying that this country is not great. But we are never going to be able to just gloss over the history of black people in this country and just act like that we've been on this level playing field with every other culture since the inception of this country. Now, knowing that, okay, we get to a certain place in this country and we still keep seeing what black people like to call white privilege. And if you want an example of that, I'll show you what it is in real life history right in 2020. Why is it that Antifa are anarchists and dissidents and Marxists, but a group of white people, whether they're Christians, evangelicals, upper middle class, whatever they are, they want to go and bang on the doors of a actual legitimate government process where they're counting votes and try to get in there and get them to stop voting? Why are those people not anarchists? Why are they not domestic terrorists? Why? A bunch of kids go downtown and firebomb a police vehicle or break some windows in a public building, and that's, according to the President of the United States, that's enemy number one, and that's what's wrong with this country, and we have to stop these people. Antifa, BLM, whatever you want to hashtag it. But those fine white people in Pennsylvania or wherever they were at that wanted to stop a legitimate democratic process that elects the next leader of the free world, basically, they're not domestic terrorists. They're not anarchists. I don't understand the difference between the two. I really don't. And I just want somebody who would like to explain that to me. Okay. Again, if Donald Trump deserves to be forgiven and deserves to be worked with and all the rest of that stuff from your faith or your morals or whatever it is that you believe, because it's okay that you support Donald Trump. I don't have a problem with it. I really don't. I just want to know, why is that person, why was he deserving of your faith and your support, and somebody like Barack Obama before he got in office was not? What was it about Donald Trump that made you say that's the kind of guy we need to be the moral or characteristic example or the representative of America versus what Barack Obama presented to you? Okay? And I'm not even, race out of it. Race out of it. All I care about is checks in the block. Checks in the block as an American citizen. I don't care about race. I want to know because public record and what are facts, anybody can see that. I don't care if you're white, black, Puerto Rican, male or female, purple or green. You can look up what Barack did before he became president and what Donald Trump, what he did before he ran for president. And I would just like to know from people that are trying to do the character assault, like what we did with Hillary Clinton, okay? I would like to know, why in the world would you support a person on paper like Donald Trump versus a person on paper like Barack Obama? And please do not bring up the email scandals and Benghazi and all the rest of that stuff, because that has nothing to do with it, because that's after Barack Obama got in office.
Okay. So,
you see what I'm saying? So we're talking about an American citizen on paper, just like Joe Jorgensen. The only reason I didn't vote for Joe Jorgensen is not because she was unqualified. I understand how the system in this country works, and I wanted my vote to count. And I felt like that on paper, Biden has receipts of working with people that represent my issue. Joe Jorgensen did not, because she's new to the table. That's why. That's the only reason I voted for Biden. Okay? Now, if Biden didn't run at all, and it was just Joe Jorgensen and Donald Trump, I would have voted for Joe Jorgensen. You see, I mean, that it just is what it is. So, but like I said.
Okay. Two last things I wanted to bring up. Once Biden won, or actually just prior to him winning, I guess, what's the Democratic Socialist guy? Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders.
So Bernie Sanders has a video of a meeting with the squad And he says, when he wins, we can push him on these, like, to the most progressive of all the policies they want to get through.
Yes.
And my thought is, well, there's two reasons why he won. Well, first of all, he won the nomination as president from the Democratic Party because it's all moderates. The moderates elected him. The far left would never have picked him. Never. So the moderates picked him. Now, if you push him toward all those far left ideas, you are now taking all the moderates who elected him and saying, we don't care what you think. And basically, you've just destroyed the entire Democratic Party.
Yeah. But the whole reality of it is the Democratic Party has never been far left.
No. But they haven't been. But the thing is, Bernie Sanders and the squad are trying to push it that way now that he's in office. But if he does that, you're negating all the moderates that put him in.
But we already understand that's never going to happen.
Well, okay. But the video is out there.
Yeah.
The video is out there. So, I mean, that they're basically saying, this is what we can do.
Yeah. It's just like when Donald Trump got in office. He tested that. He tested the far right theory.
Well,
you looked at the videos of his once he became president, that very first year when he was doing nothing but playing golf and still going to these so-called these rallies in his first year, like he was still campaigning for presidency just to say, yeah, we won and we're going to do great things. You look at these videos and you got people out there doing the Heil Hitler thing. Like you can see it in the video. You see him doing it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to show me that video.
Yeah, you see him doing it. So now, does that make him a racist? No, it doesn't. Okay, but at the end of the day, is that guilty by association? Does that mean that he has to identify with that alt-right, far-right, like way out there extremist view? No.
Oh, okay. So, because I'm watching the time here.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, I do have another thing that came to my mind here.
What you got?
One of the polls shows that the biggest issue that hurt Donald Trump on this one was the coronavirus.
Yeah.
That there's this whole idea that he handled it very poorly.
Yes, he did. He personally handled it poorly. I'm sorry.
Okay. I see. First of all, this whole idea, and you said it earlier in this particular show, that do you actually think that people essentially can't think for themselves? So really, a lot of what he said, whether it be off the wall or whatever, or not scientifically sound or whatever it might be, what the narrative that's pushed on that is he was such a big influence over people that every word out of his mouth was that important. So if he said, "Hey, the coronavirus, it'll be gone in by the end of the month" or whatever, does that, and then you're saying, well, that's what caused all the problems. Well, then you're saying that Americans don't think for themselves.
I think they do think for themselves. Well, I think the problem is that nobody wants to be responsible for what they thinking when it gets when it becomes overt, when it goes into reality.
Because we actually see that with Cuomo in New York, who basically he pushed people with COVID into nursing homes and caused a lot of death because of it. Actually, 5 different states did that. But then when he's questioned about it, he says, I was just following what Trump said. But at the same time, he says, but when it comes to a vaccine, I'm going to rely on my own people because I don't trust Trump. So you can't have it both ways.
Again.
Yeah, okay. So
yes.
I just want to bring that up. Okay. So, and the last thing I want to ask, and actually, I don't know if you really want to answer it on the show or not, or if we just
go ahead, ask
let
it.
People ask. But with all these recounts that need to occur, and if Trump were to win after the recounts, or if it ends up in court the way it did back in 2000, will Democrats accept the defeat?
It's not even about an accept the defeat. Whoever wins, wins. I thought he was going to win this time.
Honestly?
Yeah. It's always been that.
Trump won back in 2016, and no one who voted for Hillary would accept it.
It wasn't about we didn't want to accept it. You have to understand.
No, they don't accept it. I've heard.
You're talking about he's not my president and all the rest of that talk?
No, he's not a legitimate president. He's not he did not win the presidency.
That is
I
not.
hear that a lot.
Okay, that is. I don't know about those people because the people that I represent that are doing legitimate work, case in point, like people that have started BLM and people that are literally in politics right now doing work, like Maxine Waters and Estacio Cortez.
Okay,
they don't say stuff like that.
Okay, well, but my question is,
Yes.
will Democrats in general, or those who voted for Biden, or because I can go with anybody, will it be accepted if Trump actually wins after the recount?
There is no will it be accepted. Because we are not the guys that got in a van from Virginia and filled it full of semi-automatic and automatic weapons and went to Philadelphia. We're not those guys. We're not the guys that went and banged on the doors and told them stop the vote. We're not those guys. You see where I'm coming from?
I see where you're going.
You're posing that question to the wrong people.
Okay. Well, let me just put it out there to anybody that's watching this. Will you accept a Biden defeat after the recounts? Or
we have no choice but to accept it.
Well, honestly, I asked this question before because concession speech.
Yes.
I've already seen the day after the election, it's like, hey Trump, you got to do a concession speech. Al Gore his concession speech came 30.
That is because he really thought that the election was stolen from him. That's a whole nother book. It is what it is.
Okay.
This election does not mirror the other election.
Okay, then 2016, Hillary. Did she ever give a concession speech? Somebody told me that yes, she did.
I think she did. It just wasn't what everybody wanted to hear. That's all.
Oh, okay.
She did. She gave one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But the whole point is there's an entire process that occurs after the voting, which includes legal battles.
Yes.
That's actually written into the process. There's
Yeah.
going to be legal battles for certain things. And honestly, I think Trump should pursue every means he has. However, my reason for saying that is I want to make sure that Biden won legitimately, and then case closed.
Yeah.
So pursue it with everything you got, but don't at the same time.
You want to know what his problem
is? At the same time, he talks too much. But at the same time, stop talking about it and telling people that it was all fraud and whatever.
His problem is that all those lawsuits cannot work if the process that gave him all those votes, you forget it was an unprecedented turnout.
Yes, that's true.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the process that gave him all those votes in those red states, how is the process fraud? The same process that he does not like in Philadelphia gave him, I'm just going to make up a state here, Minnesota. You see where I'm coming from? The same process. You see what I'm saying?
I get it. Okay, we got to wrap up.
Yes.
I got a couple more things I want to talk about, but I'm not going to. Okay, so that is the show for today. What we want you to do, share it with your friends and family. If you like the show, definitely share it. Leave comments. Actually, that's more important than anything else. Leave some comments. Tell us what you actually think about all this. My candidate didn't win, and it wasn't Trump. So when we talk about the presidential election, actually, I don't think any of my candidates. Well, we only had presidential, but my amendments went through. So I'm good with that.
I just want to give a big shout out to Kwesi and Fume. That whole Kim Clacklick or whatever her misread dress is. Yeah, that was a joke. Shout out to Be More. Yeah, stand up.
Okay.
Call it what you want.
Let's just say Michael is from Baltimore. And that particular race was very important to me. Okay, so leave comments. You can find us on Facebook at Civil Disagreement TV. You find us on YouTube, Civil Disagreement TV, and find our website at civildisagreement.net. All our videos are listed out there on the website, so you can definitely get there. We got a few things coming up that are going to be presented on the website. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not even going to drop any clues on this one. Michael's looking a little blank there, like he has no idea what I'm talking about, which he doesn't because I haven't told him we're going to do it. But like I said, just like us, share us. We're trying to build an audience, but most importantly, join in the conversation. If you don't have a conversation with us specifically, but you have a conversation elsewhere, tell us about it. We want to hear what you're talking about and what other people are saying.
Yes.
And on that note, then, unless you have something else to add,
No, I'm good.
we're out.
Peace.
I'm just here chilling with my man K Dog.